Okay, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing Section 8 housing, low income housing, and continuum of care. So it's three different types of housing. Before I get started, I'll let you know I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I work with hundreds of clients, sometimes every month, and thousands throughout the year. I also work with hundreds of landlords around the U.S. Most people find that the housing search has changed immensely since the pandemic, and we've had several variants which have caused things to change rapidly. Consulting over these years, what used to be a difficult system of things have definitely become more challenging, now that things are closing. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to give you all direct links and resources in order to use to shorten some of this research that many of you are doing, because that's why you're out here looking at these videos. You're trying to figure out who's telling you the truth. You're trying to figure out who's going to tell you what you need to do so you don't end up spending an eternity trying to get housing. And I think that sometimes Google is a great resource for many things, but it's definitely not when it comes to housing. Throughout this career doing this, I can tell you that an immense amount of research, time, manuals, and other things have gone into this, looking from operations manuals, procedure manuals, data manuals, HUD manuals, housing authority manuals. Then you multiply that by 50 states, over 5,000 counties. You can imagine the immense library you have to have a true understanding. So much so that even attorneys call me and say, hey, studied law. I'm not looking to learn what you're learning because I don't have time. I've got a case. So I'll have to consult, attorneys here and there, and they've even asked to be a witness for some cases. And same thing with landlords. Landlords often are into market rate tenants, and they have learned to migrate throughout this pandemic because a lot of people that had jobs no longer have them. And by virtue, they've seen that other landlords they know that have accepted Section 8 and housing choice vouchers, they've managed to get through the pandemic unscathed and get most of their rent, where their market rate or people that work and pay rent have been troublesome and have not been able to pay rent. So just to bring that up. So I'm going to let you guys know that this is also a live video. So you're seeing me live. It is right now 5:35 in Texas. This video will last a little bit, anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. And you can chat with me live if you're on a phone, if you're on your tablet, you're on your desktop, laptop, your TV. Hell, some refrigerators will allow to do a Google search. So whatever device you're on, you may or may not be able to chat with me. That being said, so I'm going to say hello, and I'm also going to be answering questions while we're going along here, because I know people come here, they want to answer. So happy holidays, Deborah. How are you doing? Letitia, hi, how are you? Vanessa, Riser, hello and welcome. Jasmine Victoria, welcome back, Jazzy. It's been a minute since I've seen you. And Letitia, glad I caught you live. Yes. Now, y'all know when I do these videos, I like to do things when I'm in the mood. I got to tell you, I'm tired. Today was supposed to be my day off, but the phone kept ringing. Lots of cases to deal with. January through March is a nightmare when I deal with half the nation trying to call my phone. Why? Because they can't give the answers they need from the housing authority. The housing authorities don't answer their phone. When you do get somebody, they don't really want to tell you anything. You're just being rebuffed as an attempt. I'm not suggesting all housing authorities act in that manner, but getting answers these days is becoming more and more difficult. So, Joe Carr, hello, welcome back. And Joe goes on to say, I have an appointment with you this Friday. Good. I'm looking forward to it too, Joe. Definitely talked to a lot of people for a long time. A lot of you guys booked me, for 20-minute consult, and I ended up talking with you for an hour. Many of you called me and got charged nothing. That's just the way this goes. I'm definitely a talker, and I talk to a lot of people. So let's talk about some of the things you're going to need immediately. Okay. So if you're looking at this video live, most of you should be able to see whether or not I post a link in the chat window. So we're going to start with resources. For those of you that are 55 and older, if you're doing a housing search, I would like you to utilize this particular website. A few things you should know. Scam websites from other countries and all that often outrank the real housing authorities, and so do their very crazy articles. You have to be very careful that when you're visiting sites that say they're going to help you with housing and vouchers, that they're not telling you that they're going to help you apply in every state and county across America. That is a scam. They know that you're desperate. You're willing to give up your social security number and all your privately identifying information. I've never once done that in my career and still successfully be able to get people housing. Okay. So you need to go to the right sites that are either sponsored or they're official housing authority sites, not .org, .gov, or .com. So you have to watch that. There's a lot of people around the world, that would prefer to rip you guys off. So the first up, 55 plus. Look, if you're doing a housing search, this is the very best. Okay, I utilize this as a resource. It is www.affordablehousing.online.com. It recently merged with Go Section 8 or Section 8 Go. Okay. It has the largest database. Second to that, I would recommend those of you that are old school that have a Facebook page. I would suggest to you that you go to the marketplace where you're able to sell knickknacks out of your home on the marketplace. Not everybody that has a Facebook account is going to have a marketplace. They prefer Facebook accounts that have been established at least 2 or 3 years old. And if you've had it that long, more than likely you do have a marketplace. You may be able to view it on your computer or you may not. Sometimes they only allow you to view it if you have it on the app and vice versa. Look, there's a lot of good private landlords as well. Okay. Next up, our next resource is going to be the federal database for all people that want to utilize your housing choice voucher. Okay. These are not tenant-based vouchers where you deal with a private landlord under lich, like with the subsidy. This is going to be for voucher holders. Now I'm going to copy the link in, bear with me. So this would be www.hud.gov, program offices, public Indian housing affair, PHA, contacts. Nope, you don't need to remember all that. You just need the link. So we're going to link it. So that's coming right about now. That will cover all 50 states and will identify all available housing authorities along with their phone numbers, emails, addresses, and directors of services for each housing authority. So let's take a breather for a minute and then talk about what you should expect right now. Now, as of Monday, the U.S. has reported around 1 million cases of Omicron. Doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. The only thing that matters is we know that a lot of things are closing. And most of that is by individual choice rather than government enforcement, okay? And that means that a lot of housing authorities are owned and operated and their employees are county people. That means a lot of these close locations are closed. They're not going to answer the phone. And in fact, I'm getting calls around the nation saying, hey, even on Google, they're showing temporarily closed. Do not be surprised. Look, guys, if you cannot reach them, try driving there. If driving there does not summon them to the door, then your only other option is to write a letter, use a tracking number. In 3 days, they will receive it, and they can either respond or not respond. Second of that would be contacting HUD's DC office and see if a federal employee at the actual HUD DC office or regional office can pick up their phone, put you on hold, and then try to make a direct ring to over there. So in other words, 3-way. Extraordinary times require extraordinary efforts. Look, if you think your job's a pain in the ass to have to call, imagine what my day's like when I get nothing but a dial tone. A lot of housing authorities right now, they're just not, they don't have any incentive to answer. What can they possibly do, So I see there is a comment here, so I'm going to address that. Then we're going to move on to those of you that are homeless or will be imminently homeless, or those of you who are surfing couches, living with families and friends, and you're not on a lease. You don't have a mortgage at home. We're going to talk about solutions for you too. Next up, Good Redmond. Hey, man, how's it going? Now, just waiting for the housing inspector to come through. So you're waiting for your HQS. For those of you who don't know that acronym, that is the Housing Quality Inspection. Hopefully I said that acronym correctly. Moving on, he says, just waiting for the housing inspector to come through. Was fortunate the apartment complex was addicting a person out of, I'm not quite sure. I think you kind of misspelled a few things there, but that's all right. I'll do it myself. So anyways, Good Ribbon says things are exceeding his expectations, which is good. One thing we should focus on very hard right now is we are in January, which means we're under the new federal budget. It is now January. That means that all the counties and states and other programs that seek federal funding cook the books for December. What I mean by cook is they try to get rid of whatever funding they have for the end of the year for tax purposes. So January means they have new funding. Look, don't be a fool. Don't wait till this summer and go do this. By the summertime, you will be a part of the other crowd of people, the monstrous crowd of people that are going to want vouchers and housing. If you do it during the winter right now, there's not a lot of people trying to move. There's not a lot of people trying to beat down the door at the housing authority. And even though it's a real strain to get them on the phone and other things, now is an opportune time. It's the most opportune 3 months of the year. It would only get exceedingly harder as you wait longer and longer. The biggest push to get all housing and vouchers is during the summer because people are a lot like ants. They all want to do things at the same time. Don't be like them. Trust me on that. Let's talk about homelessness. Let's talk about people who are fixing to be put out in their apartments, can no longer afford their apartments. So they've got landlords lying to them and saying they're going to sell the property when really they're not. They're just not sure whether you're going to pay rent. So they're trying to trick you out of your apartment and all that drama. Okay, so they have what they call continuum of care, which is coordinated entry. Okay, continuum of care you can look up, but the thing about it is you'd want to add the word in the Google search, continuum of care, and then homeless housing. It in principle is no different than any other Section 8 voucher, which is better known as the Housing Choice Voucher. Difference is it's administered through a different place. Now, I do realize in some states that continuum of care is also part of the housing authority, but generally it is not. So the continuum of care will allow a person that is homeless, imminently homeless, living in friends with couches, maybe you're young and surfing couches, who knows, sleeping in the car, sleeping in the woods, whatever. You don't have to be hardcore homeless to utilize this. I often use it as a temporary bridge for many of my clients when I do casework for them. So what exactly is it? What does it do? Continuum of care coordinated entry asks you anywhere from about 10 questions to 35 questions, contingent on your answers being really good ones. And what I do with my clients is I have their operational manuals. Those operational manuals are SBDAT, BOSS, CES, and so on. These are basically kind of like your SAT test. The difference is with you doing is you don't know the questions beforehand, and you certainly don't know the answers, and you don't know the scoring system. When people utilize me, they're able to get their hands on these manuals, okay, through consulting, and then I'm able to show them what the questions will be before they ever arrive. And then I suppose you have to take a moral or ethical standpoint to this because I suppose if you knew both the questions and the answers, you probably do pretty well. Now, I'm not suggesting anybody go and lie, okay? That's illegal. It's against the law. I'm just saying that I do a superior job of making sure that my clients are well armed versus you walking in the building and screwing it up, okay? Once you make your answers a matter of public record, you're done for a year. They're not going to let you change the answers for a better or more desired result. So it's important whether you're doing continuum of care, subsidy, or you're receiving a voucher dealing with the housing authority that you absolutely understand the questions and how to answer them before you do. There aren't any second shots. If you don't end up saying the right things, given the correct answers, then you will potentially checking or not checking a box could cost you 5 additional years or more. Okay. That's an example, an extreme example. I had a young lady call me the other day. She told me her whole story. I asked her about her preferences, and that means those are things that the housing authorities consider to be of the highest priority to put her at the top of the list. By the time I reached the end of the list, the young lady, out of 12 different things that I asked her, only scored on one, which means she had absolutely no chance of it. She would have gone dead last on the list. After a brief conversation and making her understand what the rules were and what she could potentially change legally, then she was able to requalify herself before she went in there and blew up her case, okay? And then she'd have been sitting by that phone to 2030, okay? Waiting for nothing. That's the thing you guys don't get, man. Look, single questions can cost you terribly on these applications. A lot of housing authorities do pre-applications. So those pre-applications are more like a process of elimination. They want to know two things from you. Do you make too much money and are you too young? You answer wrong on that deal, and I can assure you, you'll never get a call back. All right, so I'm going to answer some questions because they're pouring in, and some of you are writing paragraphs. Letitia H., how can I get an emergency Section 8 voucher? Okay, so EHV is what that is. Right now, as mandated by the United States government, the only people that will be issuing the emergency housing voucher is the continuum of care, coordinated entry. And so let me give you that link right now, guys. Do not be fooled by the fact that says homeless all over it, okay? If you don't have a lease, you don't have a mortgage, you're technically homeless. All right, so I'm going to link it up now. So here it comes. This is every continuum of care in the United States, every county, and every state. Now, I would say that the list is issued by the United States government. It is 80% accurate. It is not fully accurate, okay? It's the best they have right now, and that's the best I can give you quickly in the video. You'd want to contact them, say that you're struggling with housing, and then answer the questions that they're going to ask you. And if you score 17 to 30 points, then you'll likely be made an offer of a voucher. So, what is the difference? So, we're talking about these continuum of care vouchers versus the housing authority and the housing choice voucher. So, let's get back to what that really is. So, they make two offers to you. You have rapid rehousing for those of you that they'll rapidly rehouse you in anywhere from 30 to 45 days if they have the funding. Issue the voucher, you still have to go through the glorious process of finding a property, but it sure beats the hell out of dealing with the housing authority. It takes forever, okay? Secondary offer is going to be PSH, which is permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing are for those of you that really do struggle with immense physical or mental issues that are preventing you from operating normally in life, which means affects your quality of life, seeing, hearing, mobility, your reality, the way your perception of reality, and in other issues. Okay, so it's a decent system if you understand how to get through it. And the main thing is, it's about, like I said, 10 to 30 questions. You either get them right or you get them wrong. They make an offer. And then the third offer that they usually make in the beginning, if they have the federal funds, is if you're really struggling with housing immediately, they may choose to afford you a hotel for the first 30 days. It can be anywhere from a few days all the way up to 90 days. It really just depends on the part of the country and how much money they've got. All right, let me get on to some of these other questions here. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. No, I wasn't sponsored by Coca-Cola. I just happen to like these old school cups. Used to get at the pizza place. If you're old enough, y'all remember these red cups. Well, I bought a bunch on Amazon, and I like them. So, congratulations, Coca-Cola. I guess I just sponsored you without knowing it. So, who's your daddy? First interesting name of the day. And I said it, then I realized what it meant. So, let me go on to see what the person says. So, who's your daddy says, my name came up on PHA. And by the way, that acronym PHA is referring to the housing authority in that person's town or city. Okay. And so the PHA waiting list is 9 years. Then they sent me a letter saying I'm not a priority and no longer live in the city. Is that legal? Well, I don't know how you came to consensus of 9 years. No housing authority can just blurt out a number like that and actually be telling the truth. Second part is if they do have preferentials for you to work or live in the city, then yes. It means you probably messed up your application with them and then they have purged you from that list. Thankfully, there are more than one county in the city, but yes, it is quite legal. It means that you are you're of zero priority to them, so they're probably going to drop you, or they'll make you wait about 15 to 20 years. So it's an unfortunate consequence of a lot of you guys just doing your application on your own because you don't really truly understand all the rules they're not going to show you. So you get that shock and awe campaign when they tell you or write you, hey, by the way, we appreciate that 5-year wait. We see you're no longer living in the city. So we're just going to, get rid of your application. It's trash right now. We got too many people on the list. But the good news is, you could easily address another housing authority in another county, 20 minutes over the county line, and this time try to get the answers right. And living as a state and county or federal law, it just requires you to be within the state or county for 30 days. That's easily achieved by giving an address to a hotel. Okay. You guys got to think. That's the thing about it. Y'all are not often prepared for this stuff. You're too literal and too honest, and it ends up crushing your cases. Okay. And they get you guys on technicalities all the time. I watch it, man. I watch people wait 15 years, and then the last minute they're ready to kick out a voucher, and y'all go and put something stupid into a renewal, and then they kick you out on a technicality. And it's a sad situation too, because a lot of you guys wait a long time. Sheila Maritz, we'll just say Sheila, if I say that right. What all do you provide in the appointment consultation? So I'll talk about that just briefly, okay, guys? I'm not really here to sell anything. So when you arrive at my website, which is www.section8consulting.com, I only offer 3 in-principle services, same ones that I've always offered over the years. 1, you can speak to me for 20 minutes, okay? And that consult is brief. We discuss your case. I ask you a bunch of questions to determine whether or not you have a good case and preferences. Believe it or not, guys, I won't accept money from everybody. I turn people away all the time. And the reason it is if you have a bad case, then it's pointless. Okay? That's a bad way. So if you have a workable case, I'll let you know. Um, the other thing is casework. I work with clients anywhere from a half a month to a full month. Okay. And so those are two different services. For those of you that are well prepared, have done their research, then I often just recommend 2 weeks. For those of you that have overly complicated cases, and those are the things that I kind of determine when I talk to you on the phone, then we end up usually doing a month worth of casework. So why is it so long? Well, it's simple. Do you know of any voucher on the planet that you can get in 30 days? Very few. Okay. That's why it takes so long. And it's not because I'm over here working 19 hours a day sweating. Okay. It's not a sweatshop. It's because it takes so long to get housing authorities to respond. Okay. Back and forth with applications, getting the correct answers. And then I often tell my clients, don't put one egg in one basket. Put a whole dozen of them in there. Okay. So, in other words, if I have to with a client, I will approach every housing authority across half the state. I don't give a damn if we got multiple offers. We don't have time to sit here and knick-knack with just one little housing authority in one little county. Look, half the nation's moving around. Look, people in California, there's nowhere left to go half the time, so they migrated to Arizona. People in Chicago, nearly 20% of all applicants in Chicago, a lot of those people now moved down to New Mexico. I actually got a news reporter call me and said, "What the hell's going on? Why is there such an extreme demand from people from Chicago?" Same thing with Florida. It's playing around the country. Whole states are devastated because let's look at principle what's happened. 2 years of virus, shutdowns, closures, people losing their jobs. We evicted 40 million people. There are 40 million vouchers on the planet. That means for the first time in U.S. history, there are more people seeking voucher in one physical year than the entire history of housing itself. It has put a strain and a demand that is in a magnitude of 20 to 100 times what it used to be. What used to be a very simple job for me is now turned into a complex game and a spider web of trying to utilize every loophole, every policy procedure, anything we can do just inside and not breaking the law to get the housing authorities to get my client a voucher. We're having to pull every tactic. It isn't like the old days where you just did a little bit of casework and then it was fine. I mean, things have changed. Look, you're competing literally like it's the Olympics. You're really competing. Let me give you all a great example. The city of Miami opened its housing authority waiting list and it had 5,000 vouchers. That city only has a population of 90,000 people. You want to hear something truly dramatic? Out of a city of 400,000 people, 90,000 people, one quarter of the city applied for a housing choice voucher. As a standard, only barely ever does it go over 1% of a population of a city at any given time. One quarter of that city. Do you think that statistic's unusual to Miami? It's going down everywhere. Every housing authority is like that. Now, I'm not suggesting a quarter of New York, but I see you're seeing the gravity of this, that you're now competing with 100 times more people in a wheelchair, people that are not just 60, they're 120. And so every preference, we take well, how old are you? Are you 130? I'm so sorry. We'll have to put you at the back of the list. Let us know when you reach 102. And that's an extreme example. I'm not suggesting anybody needs to be that old. Or you say, I'm homeless. Well, how long? Well, now that we have 5 times more homeless, give us a call when you've been homeless 35 years. Right now, you're in a small section. Unfortunately, it means that you've only been newly minted homeless for 10 years. In a decade, unfortunately, is just a little bit of time. So when you reach 30 years of homeless, give us a ring. So again, that's an extreme example, but I think you understand what I'm trying to convey. If you want to compete, then you better damn well have the right kind of answers. A lot of people hear me say that, and they don't really believe me. Anytime you want to run down the housing authority, fill out an application, put your name, your number, your address, your social security, and tell them the only problem you've got is your low income. They'll laugh, they'll throw your application away, and they'll give you a number straight to hell. And believe it or not, somewhere in about 2050, your phone will ring, and then you'll be somewhere like maybe in the shower, and then unfortunately, you'll hear a message. Well, so sorry, Miss Sally. We did try to contact you after 84 years and you didn't answer the phone, so you just got perched. Goodbye. Please call back another day. Look, don't these people are not playing with you guys about this stuff. If you don't answer, they ain't got time for you. Now, again, that's an extreme example. A lot of housing authorities will send you a letter, or at least they'll attempt to send it to the wrong address. So, anyways, I think that a lot of due diligence is required right now to really get in the system, and you really have to look at all your options. If you're in a state where there's no counties that are offering vouchers, then you're just going to have to pack your things and consider other places. Okay, you cannot get anything if it's nothing there to get, and I think a lot of people have come to that realization. A lot of New York and New Jersey have been trying to migrate to Pennsylvania, and so that's we do whatever we have to do. Here's the great news: even if you land in Pennsylvania, say you're from New York, then this is a clever way of you going there temporarily, and then you port the voucher back into your city. So what you did is you picked up a voucher in a county that has vouchers to give, and then you shoot it back into the city where you came from, and that city doesn't have any vouchers. You see, so you kind of cheated it, didn't you? Now you're starting to understand just how complex and how many games you have to play to get it to work the way you want it. Sometimes you pick up vouchers in places you wouldn't think to get them. You got a little town, 10,000 people, they got 90 vouchers and nobody needs them. You grab one, you port it back to your city, the city that hadn't had a voucher in 5 years. There's all kinds of tactics that can be deployed that are perfectly legal and within the reason of the law. Okay? I never ask my clients to lie. We're not going to violate any federal laws or anything like that. But if you understand this stuff like a good attorney, then you're looking for every loophole you can. And the more you understand the system, its rules, policies, procedures, data, operation, okay, the more of that you understand, the more you're able to match the plot, the course, and then be able to get through it. Or you just walk in like a deer that's been blindsided by headlights and you get what you get. Okay. A lot of my clients come in tears because they got what they got and they don't understand. The housing authority is not a Coke machine. You're not going to give it 50 cents and kick out a Coke. And these days, that Coca-Cola is probably $2 at that machine. So, as a very simple explanation, moving on to more comments here. Money matters. Is it possible to get Section 8 if you're still married but divorced? Well, that only, I understand the question you're asking, Monet matters, but I think that your household composition is not going to change it. What in principle would change the situation for you is if you had an extremely high earner. If you're separated legally or you're not legally, if they're not going to be living with you, then most certainly you should proceed. Yes. Beantown, hey man, glad to have you back in the channel. It's been a minute. Beantown's been around. He's been around in our channel for a very long time. So we appreciate you, Beantown. Who's Your Daddy says originally applied on 2/14/2012. Good God, that was a long time ago. I got to tell you, if you applied nearly a decade ago and they still haven't done nothing with it, it tells me that your original application was horrifyingly bad and you likely give a lot of the worst answers you could possibly give. It also tells me in your recertification that you virtually not changed any of those answers over a decade. So you really just were not ever at any point at that housing authority viewed as a priority. And that's unfortunate. I don't want you to be upset by that. But look, until you give better answers and you have preferences, they're not going to consider you as a realistic option. Okay. And contrary to belief, they do not let this just time out. Oh, well, Bob's been on the list 15 years. I guess we should give him one. They don't do mercy vouchers either. They'll just eventually try to purge you. And it's sad, but it's reality. My suggestion in a situation like that, when you waited that long, like if I have a client waiting more than 3 years, and that would be the max time, we move around to another county because you're just really wasting your time. Those people have no intent of ever calling you. Lala Daniel, hello, welcome to the channel. Happy New Year's. Cecil Morris, what all should I have or be prepared for before my first appointment with you? What should I have in hand and ready? A lot of people ask me about what to be prepared for and what to have in hand. Here's the deal, guys. I think that y'all have a very logical idea of how it might play out, like you're going to the mechanic or the doctor and you need proof and evidence. Look, until I actually talk to you and find out who you are, how old you are, what your case details are, your preferences and all that, I don't need any of that, okay? That kind of paperwork is the kind of paperwork you present to the housing authority, the continuum of care, or so on. What you need to be prepared for is to answer an immense amount of questions. They will be broad, but they will not be so specific as I say. I need to know. I need you to grab your last 3 paychecks. Okay, it's somewhat specific. Okay, so there's not. You just need to be mentally prepared. Now, if you tell me the cases in relation to discrimination and other things, then I may ask you to email everything after the consult to me so I can review it. But no, I don't really, before I even talk to somebody, I'm not going to accept 45,000 documents by email or even during a consult because it's just a waste of time. Once I know where the case has gone, then I'll tell you, hey, this is what we've got to get together. This is what I need to review. And this is the course of action we should likely take to make this work right. So for now, I would say just be prepared to talk for quite a while and to answer a great deal of questions. Now, let's talk about preferences today. We talk about this a lot, and we want to understand better why housing authorities view us as a good candidate and why they view us as a bad candidate. So let's talk about some of the elemental things that will greatly improve it. And I'm going to talk about some of the secret ones. And they're not so much a secret. It just means you guys really don't know, but I do. Okay. One, if you serve the United States military, it means that you can fall in line with HUD VASH as well as mainstream voucher. Number two, your age. Age does matter a great deal. If you're aging out of, if you were adopted and you're aging out of foster care, you're considered a preference. If you're 55 plus, you're a preference. If you're 62 and older, you're a preference. Anything else can be interesting. For those of you that are 26 and younger in college with a disability, that's a preference because that could be Section 504. For those of you that are 55 plus to 62 plus, potentially, well, no, 62 plus is going to be Section 202. For those that are 61 going backwards to 18, that would be Section 811 or the Housing Choice Voucher or Rapid Rehousing or Permanent Housing. For those of you that are 26 to 18 or 18 to 26 in college, earning college credits, disabled, whether you're in their housing or you're on your own, you'd be a Section 504. All these subsections are part of HUD's federal regulations, just like tax law. These are subsections. That's why when you go to the housing, excuse me, can I get a Section 811? That's why they don't know specifically what the hell you mean, because you're talking about subsection of federal law. You're there just to get a voucher. That voucher, if I may, I'm going to show you an example real quick, again, as I always do in my videos, to help to give you a better concept of why people act like they don't know what you're talking about. When you go in there, you're only applying for a voucher. That voucher can be attached to many things. This voucher could say housing choice voucher for just about anybody. But if you walk in the building and you get a voucher and you're 62 plus, then your voucher magically changes its words to Section 202. If you roll in the building with a wheelchair or mental disability, then the wording all of a sudden magically disappears and you're now attached to Section 811. You see my point? So this thing's like a chameleon. It changes its name and intent based on who you are. You don't go in and say, can I get a menu of vouchers? I'd like to view all of your vouchers and see which works. No. You give answers, and based on those answers, will drive the housing authority and its algorithm to determine what type of voucher they're going to make it for you. Okay. So in principle, you guys don't really understand that particular part. So when you go in, they're going to tell you. If you're smart, like I am with my clients, we answer questions in such a way that kind of forces that application to steer in just the right direction. It's removing and not saying certain things and adding a little bit more of the other that kind of traps them into only giving you specific types of vouchers. If you're a good consultant, you'd know that if you want to trap a housing authority and only making an offer of specific vouchers that were high paying, then you would definitely frame your questions in a specific way. Now, did anybody ever hear me say that you need to lie or break the law? No. It just means that I'm clever. Of course, when you read the housing authority operational manuals and all that, you do, once you understand the rules before you walk in the building, it does leave little to the imagination as to how you could potentially know the outcome before you ever even saw the service. You see, you guys tend to walk in with your head, with a bag over your head, and you're hoping for the best, and you don't get it while you're not getting anything. So let's talk about some more preferences real quick since I have some of your attention. For those of you that have a disability. Now, look, a lot of you guys only think of disability. Hey, if I don't have a Social Security disability check, then I'm not disabled. That is absolutely wrong. First of all, the Social Security Administration is its own federal agency. HUD is a different federal agency. Social Security says, "Hey, we need a doctor. We're going to need lawyers. We're going to need a courtroom, and you're way up here, and you got to prove a lot." HUD says, "Hey, man, as long as you can prove that you're this, this, and this, you can get a voucher, and we'll consider you disabled, even if you don't have a Social Security disability check." So you're way down here. Do you see my point? So if you understand the type of things they're looking for and cannot deny you, then that would likely be the type of disabilities, physically or mentally, that you'd want to have before you apply. In other words, if you've been struggling with your mental health for the last 4 years, then maybe you could help your doctor understand what type of disability you have, and then he can write that down. You see my point? So you're assisting the doctor because you already know that it's a pre-qualifier when you apply. Anybody hear me say you needed a lie? Like I told you guys, if you're going to play the game, then you have to play it better than the people that designed it. If this was a fair system and the housing authority was going to pray for you, come visit you, bring you hot coffee, and give a shit about your life, they would have already done it. So unless you're willing to play the game, you're going to lose. All right? Let's talk on the next part. So besides that, award letters, people that are already in the system. So what does in the system mean? Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps. Some of you call it SNAP. Some of you have TAMP with children. Some of you have children. And it doesn't just have to be disabilities for adults. You've got children that have on spectrum, autism, MS, MD. Or on the mental side, you could have bipolar, access depression number 2. You could have schizophrenia. There are a number of different things that are highly qualified for this that you could have just got a diagnosis for. That could be instant qualifiers for it. And now, make no mistake, but just because the housing authority says, "Hey, congratulations, you get a voucher because you were bipolar," does not mean you're going to sit there, put 50 cents in gas in your car and gas it over to the Social Security Administration. "Hey, man, HUD says I get a voucher because I'm disabled. Now I need a check." The Social Security Administration will laugh you out the building. They don't give a damn what HUD does. Okay? Different set of rules. So just in case you're thinking, okay, now that I'm disabled under one federal agency, I'll run down to Social Security Department and go ahead and have them print out that check for me. That ain't going to happen. They'll drag you through a court. You'll need lawyers and everything, and it'll drag on for years. Okay. Next up, let's talk about domestic violence. There's a whole lot of that goes on in this country because people don't raise their children right, and they grow up and they become monsters. All right, that's just simply what it is. An abuser is an abuser. There's no two shades to that, and so that happens a lot. That represents roughly 10% of my clients that are trying to leave some kind of a situation. Domestic violence under the eyes of HUD is a situation between that of a person to another person that you're in love with, that you're in a relationship with, and that you're potentially intimate, all right? It does not mean your mom, your dad, your uncle, Bob, the pastor, or whatever, okay, or friends and family. It has to be somebody you're actually in a relationship with. Domestic violence does something very unusual compared to most of the preferences I've been talking about. It does particularly require housing authorities to consider your case very highly. It can also compel them to consider you for a voucher twice as quickly as the average person. All right. So I was talking about that among these preferences I was talking about, a bunch of them, there are particular ones that are extremely powerful. And now when I deal with clients, the more of these powerhouse, not all of them, but when you got a bunch of the big ones, it does real big damage when it comes to getting to the top of the list. All right. Let's move to the next. Working and living in the same county as where the housing authority is. So that's called local preference. It's the oldest and easiest preference to get. Look, a lot of you go, "Oh, well, I live in the next county." Well, so what? Who's going to check that? Besides that, homeless people migrate all over cities. In LA, they can travel to 5 different counties in a single day on a bus. Who's going to say who lives where? In these days, you can get on the internet, you can buy a real street address from UPS.com, and you can literally live in every county in the state, and the housing authority would have a lot of trouble figuring out exactly what reality would be. And do you really think that they have the time and resources to sit there with an investigator standing in the bushes with a camcorder to figure out whether or not you're pushing the key in the door. Now, no, they don't. All right. You guys think that these people like the FBI. They're not. Now, moving on from that, it's obvious that people, as I mentioned about these, so those are some of the preferences. So what are the big three? I call them the Lincoln Big Three. If a client has this combination of things going on, then they're likely in the top 1 to 5%. If you have a person that is experiencing domestic violence, that is considered disabled, and also homeless, you're pretty much going to be at the top. In addition to that, you can act great. Actually, now your second up version of this is going to be those of you, if you want to back up with that, also being a veteran and a senior. Stack that in with the other three, you got a real powerful case, okay? And any combination of those. Now, I didn't mention a bunch of other ones. Those are more like icing on the cake. Most of you guys call me and you only have 1 or 2 little shitty preferences. Oh, well, I work at Taco Bell. I only make 10 cents an hour. I don't understand why they haven't called me in 85 years. I just turned 19. You got to do better than that, okay? So the thing about it is, remember the part about the vouchers? Let's talk about that again. So now you can understand preferences in relation to the voucher. So here we are with that voucher again, okay? Remember I told you it keeps changing names depending on what the answers you give. 1 minute it may say 811 because it knows that you're disabled, but then the 811 evaporates because they discover you're not disabled, but you're young and you're in college. So now that voucher turned into a 504. You see my point? But then they discovered you lied about your age, but you're really 62 and older. Now at 811 turned into a section 202. Again, these are all strings attached to this, and the voucher will change contingent on your answers. So these preferences we're talking about, each one of these preferences is a string. So when you go and apply, and the housing authority that month receives $1 million for the homeless, they're not going to announce on their website, by the way, this month we're opening the waiting list. What they're not telling you is they're opening it for a specific subset of people. They don't give a damn about you being on the list. So if they got $1 million to spend on homeless and veterans all in one, then they'll let everybody apply because that's the federal rules. But the reality is the only people going to call are the veterans that are homeless. Okay. So understanding what the housing authority, how many vouchers they have to give, and how they're funded is going to be the attachment string to this. So for clients that have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different preferences, that means they have 6 times more chance to get a call than everybody else. That's called stacking the preferences. You see my point? The more of this, the more strings you can add to your case. So when the computer comes up, oh, we got funding for 5 different things today. So then we're going to go through the list, and the people that have the most strings attached are going to be the first ones. That's why they don't give you guys numbers. That's why they don't tell you a lot of this stuff. Because if you knew, then you would build your whole case around it. And let me tell you, that's not illegal. That just means you're highly intelligent to do so. It took me a long time to work through their system and understand it well enough to be able to utilize it to the maximum benefit. This is why they do not publish their operational manuals as reading literature in the lobby, because if you truly understand the way that I do, then you could probably do whatever you want. All right. Now, I'm not suggesting based on all this information or having thousands of manuals and procedures and operation manuals and so on is going to mean that you've got a 1-day wait and they're going to write you a voucher the next day. No. But I can damn well assure you that you'll be a better preference than anybody else in that city or close to it. Now, some people truly are just a bad age and don't have anything there. And those are the people that just won't do casework because really they're wanting to be in Section 8 housing is a desire. It is not a necessity. There's a difference between wanting something and needing something. Everybody's going to work a low-income job at one point in their life, unless you come from a rich family. And so you may want Section 8 housing, but that means you have a bad case. By the time they would actually call you, it would be a fruitless effort. By then, you've already been through graduate school. So those clients that have a lot of wants, I turn away. Those that have a necessity or a need or are unable to maintain, because their income's being evaporated, because maybe they've got children with severe disabilities. Maybe they've currently had to take in their parents, which are elderly. And there's so many situations that can play out. So, so now you're starting to frame this together in a way that you've never seen it before. We've all had ideas. I'll just apply and then maybe they give me a voucher. No, ma'am. No, sir. It does not work that way. And so the more of these preferences we're able to stack, the better we understand. So when I do research, I found out, yeah, every housing authority has an attorney, and then you do an open state or federal request, which compels them to give you the number of vouchers and the amount of funding. So if they just got juiced up with a $2 million for domestic violence, then that tells me it's time to give all my domestic violence victims a call. Hey, did you know over there in Bean County, they're doing nothing but writing vouchers for domestic violence victims? Today's the day. We gotta go get you be a resident of that county and let's go get a voucher. So now you're starting to understand that it's a complicated web of things that I do in order to get these things and to make sure that we're always doing things to keep it legal. Okay, because I don't want the Department of Justice or the feds at my door, and I definitely don't want the OAG coming down here and asking me, why am I helping people cheat it? Well, no, we're not doing any of that. It just means that you understand how it operates, and then you're using that to the full limit of what it is. Okay. Now, I'm going to take this back for a minute, and I want to show y'all something as a curiosity. Now, we've been talking at very long length about the Section 8 and the insides of it, so I just want to share a bit of information for those of you that have been normal members for a while. You'll know that I talk about two things outside of my channel. I talk about my cats, and I talk about Arkansas a lot because we're moving our office down there. And so I wanted to share some updates. If that offends you and you can only be here for Section 8, I'm so sorry. So I'm going to grab this real quick. All right. I got this paperwork today from Arkansas, so we'll give you that update real quick. Normally I'm prepared, but like I said, I was not completely ready to do the video today. So after all that waiting, guys, I got this. Y'all know that I bought a forest right out in Arkansas for me and all these cats. Fresh air and space. So yesterday, we got it. Sealed document. That is from the, and I don't care that y'all can see the address. I'm not worried about that, okay? State of Arkansas. So we got the land. It's official. I own it. Okay. So that's just a quick update. We were waiting on that, and we're going to be traveling down there. Take a look at the office and all that. And we got a visitor today. If y'all like to see him, one of the cats I've got. Usually the normal ones that are more tame that I usually have in the office. So I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to start answering the questions y'all have been asking that I've not answered. So this is a big pop, so I'm going to grab him real quick. Come on, Bear. The people want to see the Hollywood star. Come on. Oh, so happy. That's Big Bear. He's keeping us company. Oh, I hear another one. And so that was the Siamese over there. So whenever it's possible, I try to show you the cats, rescue them, take care of them. I love them and enjoy them. Unfortunately, I can't have birds because they'll eat them. If I have dogs, they'll eat the cats. So you see, I just try to stick with that. If you look carefully, right down there, you might see another cat in a minute. He's popping and popping around. It's that time of night. All right, so I'm going to move back to the conversation about Section 8 now that we did my little thing. Looks like we got El Paco. Any information on rent-to-own homes, particularly in New York? Well, when it comes to rent-to-own, we did extensively talk about that in the last video. So I want to say this about the utilizing a housing choice voucher in order to pay your mortgage. Program started in 2000. Many housing authorities had it and were funded well to do so. And then it started to evaporate really badly by 2014. And now it's limited. It's not impossible, but you're not really going to find that program in big cities. Oh, there's another cat up there, if you look carefully. And should be another one on the floor down there somewhere. Anyways, they don't have a list U.S. wide. So you have to kind of go to each housing authority and then ask whether or not they have the program. Don't ask me why they've not had the foresight essentially to create an easy list where you can just figure out what housing authorities are offered. You're likely to find that type of offer in cities where the populations are under a million but over 100,000. Okay, that's the best I can give you. I work with a lot of clients to get them that, and we do the research, and it does take a while because you're not only dealing with me, you're dealing with a broker. Okay, and then you have to have a qualified lender, and then you have rules and procedures the housing authority lay on top of that. Then you have classes, and it goes on for a while. It's not like you just having your own money and buying a house. And even if you did buy your own house personally, even that would take a month. So you add in all these other additional things, it does take a bit longer. But like a lot of my clients, or if you're not my client, it doesn't matter. What I would say to that is this: what better thing could you do with your time? I mean, you can watch TV. So a lot of you guys, well, it takes so long, I want to do it. Well, what else are you going to do with your time? You should always be working towards exiting. And I see that my Russian friend has brought up his spam again. He likes selling blow-up dolls and stuff on the channel. So I'm going to have to hide him again. I don't know what his hang-up is. Poor thing. He's got a loose screw. He keeps coming in here and posting this craziness. That's all right. So, guys, if y'all ever see these web addresses, whatever, just let me know and I'll get rid of them, okay? Because it's like panhandling, okay? It's like a bum come to panhandle trash in the channel, and I can't always control it, moving on. All right, I'm also in California, and I'm ready. Need Jay's help very badly. You and half the nation, man. I got to tell you, the emails are now reaching the 10,000 level, which means I get over 10,000 emails every month. And the number of calls are reaching astronomical levels. If y'all remember last year, between January and summer, I was booked at 2 months at a time. You couldn't even speak to me for 2 months because there were so many people. I think this is a product of having to survive the pandemic. I think that a lot of people are realizing now that they're not just applying for a voucher, they're competing with almost everybody else in the city. And so everybody wants a tactical edge. And so you see another cat there. She's having fun up there. So, it's like a petting zoo here. If you'll ever visit section8consultant.com office, we run our own petting zoo. I'm thinking about charging a nickel per view. I mean that facetiously, but yes, the cats are going crazy. This is their alive time right now. And by the way, I know a lot of you are going to find this to be nasty, but my youngest one there, he popped in the bedroom the other night. Okay. He's got a baby him. He's been like that since he was little. Anyways, I heard the meowing. That means, hey, get up. It's like 3 a.m. Wants to go outside. I didn't do it. So I felt this warm trickle. Of course, I'm half asleep. You know what happened, right? He marked the territory. So he right in my hair. And I mean, this wasn't a minute tinkle. It was because I was out of it and didn't stop him. So by the time I woke up, he literally did the business inside of my head. And so it takes a level of patience. It's unbelievable when you're dealing with cats. Of course, he didn't mean anything offensive by that. Often when cats pee and mark their territory, it's actually a great sign of respect. Of course, we don't feel that when we have to clean it up. And I don't think I really enjoyed that. I don't enjoy when people pee on me, but that did happen. I was a bit stunned. All right, so I'm going to let that loose. I'm sure y'all think I'm crazy now. Anyways, Queen Joe, hey, Jay, she says, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Celia, if I ever get that name right, how does a criminal background? Okay, so you want to know what a criminal record does in relation to this. As long as you're not on a sex offender list and you're not manufactured, produced, or you're not a meth dealer, then you're usually okay. Now, that only gets you kind of through dealing with the housing authority. Landlords certainly can be objective in their own way and not want any criminal activity. But for the most part, they work with things as long as your offenses are quite a while back. All right? Just to be clear. Now, possession of narcotics. And the reason I'm bringing drugs and all that is because it's a prevalent issue, okay? It's probably one of the bigger effects. So there's another cat. We're having a busy day. What in God's name are you doing? Bye-bye. Okay, I'm just making sure he's not peeing off the rail. And yes, I keep things clean. It's just, it's a rough night with these cats. So, so the criminal record does play a role. Now, if you're loaded up with felonies, this is a big deal. Now, I had a guy that got out of prison recently, last year, robbed a bunch of banks, got him housing. So that should say a lot, right? If I got a guy fresh off the bus from federal prison that robbed a bunch of banks back in the day and he got housing, I'm pretty sure most of you are going to be okay. But if you're out there doing bad things sexually to children and other stuff, then that's going to be a problem because housing authorities are not going to have you as a offender. Okay. And the manufacture of certain drugs are going to be an issue for housing authorities and landlords. Now, if you just got caught with a little bag of weed, something like that, that's one thing. But, if you're dealing in hardcore stuff, then that could be an issue. Moving on, Mary Semple gave me a bunch of tree symbols. I'll take that as nature. And In My Candy, my second interesting name of the day, welcome back again. In My Candy says they need to update their list. God, I know that to be the truth. Gale Resources. So glad you can see us. Gale Resources has been around a very long time. So we appreciate having her channel. She works in parallel to what I do. She helps people as well. Y'all should say hi to Gail. Well, guys, I think we talked about a great deal today. I think y'all learned a little bit. That's the thing. We have to do this in small doses because if I sit here, I would need to talk to y'all for approximately 2,000 to 3,000 hour video. No stops, no showers, no food. And then we would cover approximately 3% of everything I could teach you guys. Next year, when I get to Arkansas, I'm going to be training an employee because I don't want what I know to leave with me. Y'all know I struggle with some health issues earlier in the year. And so if I were to leave God's green earth, then a lot of what I know would leave with me. And most of you would virtually only have a couple of options left. That would be call 211, that fantastic joke. In some states, I call it 311 in promotion line. Or you can deal with the friendly people at the housing authority that give you all the answers you always need, right? So I'm one of the very few remaining consultants in the nation. Most of them are quit, left, or only want to talk on TV for 90 grand. So there's so few left that it's ridiculous. Probably less than a handful. Moving back down, Mary Smith. Hey, welcome back. Oh wow, still live. Cool, Aaron's. Yeah, I've been chatting for a minute. Y'all know I'm very talky, and you got to be because if you're gonna talk to people all day, you better damn well be chatty. So, I Knowledge. Hey, Happy New Year's. Hey, Knowledge. Thank you so much for saying that. Happy New Year's to you, Gale Resources. Your knowledge is huge. I appreciate that. I'm hoping to grow it some more. And now that it's 2022, I'm also going to mention that I'm getting new operational manuals. For those of you that are doing SPDAT, CES, COC, for those type of vouchers, I'm systematically getting them from every county in the nation, little by little, sneakily doing it. That way we have both the questions and the answers, and then, it leaves little to the imagination of whether you're going to get it. Last thing I'm going to say before I go, because we're at 57 minutes, is this. Look, guys, I'm working on a lot of cases right now, and we need to be very clear about one thing. We have this new virus. It's infected over 1 million people a day right now. There will be fallout. There will be consequences, and you should expect around 70% of all housing authorities to shut the door and turn off the lights. Get ready. I warned y'all back in December and January, and I did tell you there was a potential this was going to get ugly. Do I believe that it's going to be as bad as it was last year? No. And when I'm not talking about illness and ventilators, okay, I'm talking about the effect of when society becomes fearful and do not want to open businesses, when housing authority employees don't want you breathing on them. So I'm not talking about fear and other things in relation to that. I'm talking about the consequences of too many things closing. We just went through that with the last one. We're getting hammered again. And so it's going to complicate this. And if we end up with another huge wave, like we just went through with 40 million being evicted, and we take another 40 million, it will likely cause the utter destruction of Section 8. Okay. I don't mean it all the way, but what I mean is this. We were already way over the red line with too many people needing this at 40 million. Okay. We take another burst as we're doing right now, and a bunch of people get evicted. It will collapse pretty much the housing market for Section 8 only. I'm not talking about anything else, okay? I talk with a lot of real estate agents, brokers, and other things because I work with landlords, okay, across the nation. And I can tell you this will have an immense effect on what's going to happen by the summer. Now, has it played out and has it come to fruition? No, because I'm not a weatherman and I'm not going to preach that. But I'm just telling you, there will be consequences to all these people getting sick. And the main thing is not them getting sick lightly. It's going to be the reaction of businesses closing and people being fearful. That has a consequence, and it's going to affect those of you that are low income, on fixed income, and so on. And then it's going to cause an extreme demand on the housing market for Section 8 vouchers and so on, which means we were already at an absurd competition for this stuff. Now we're going to be reaching mythical heights with this. So, last thing I'm going to let you know, guys, is as of 2022, I'm doing contractual agreements with all clients now. It outlines all the services. It does require a digital signature and so on. As y'all know, over the course of my career, I've had 4 chargebacks in my life. 2 were because it was a duplicate charge, my fault. 2 were recent. Actually, it was only days after Christmas. My business and helping people will not be used as a personal piggy bank, okay? In other words, where somebody utilizes my services, then 4 months later, magically, only days after Christmas, when they were unable to manage their own money, decide, hey, you know what? I think I'll just go screw my consultant that literally saved my ass and do a chargeback. So from now on, I've made the business decision that we will be doing contractual agreements, and I will win any case that goes forward. Refusal of signing it will end up in a refund and a ban permanently. Okay, I don't have time in the game for that because that's too much, people. Look, if you're gonna rob, cheat, steal, and lie, do it to your lawn, man. You don't do it to the one guy the only bridge you got, and then you go out and burn it like that. Look, if you think there's 20 of me rolling around the nation, you're out your mind. There's not. So those people, good luck, you know. So, and by the way, that's not a threat to anybody. And you know what? That says a lot to my reputation because most businesses end up with 40 chargebacks every month, you know. I've had 4 in my career. It's stinging, especially when you're trying to help people that are desperate and they go and do some retarded shit like that because they couldn't manage their own Christmas budget. You know what I'm saying? I mean, days after Christmas, 4 months later, it really just drives a stake in me. But, you know, now I'm going to end up having to refer those 2 cases to the district attorney's office, and then they'll be banned from housing, and then they'll spend a little bit of time in jail, and then I'm going to throw the bill over to for collection, so it'll wreck their credit, their criminal, and then I'll be sure to contact every housing authority in the state for those 2 individuals, and they will never see a voucher in a lifetime. I can assure you that because when you operate like a con artist and a thief, you're not going to get anywhere in this life, okay? That's just what it is. So, all right, I'm going to move back to these comments, and then we're going to wrap this up. They don't even want you calling the office. That is true, I knowledge. In my candidate, the housing authority is not closed. They are just opening the doors to the public. Maybe so. I knowledge that gives them a legal excuse to not return calls. Very true. Mary Smith, mythical heights. That's no joke. Mythical. I like the word mythical. Did that not strike a little fear? We're at mythical heights. We're gonna have to go get mythical vouchers now. You know, you got to spice it up around here. The more I can sell you on it's the end of the world, maybe the more y'all hire me. Right? No, it's not that bad. By the way, guys, I only accept 4 consults every other day. This is not a business for me. It does not pay my bills. I only do 4 every other day. If I was out here to make a lot of money, go buy $1 million house, I would do this 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. And so I don't. All right. Moving on. Sonia Grinstead. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Hi, Jay. Joined your live video. Well, I hope so. It's been an hour. You had a whole hour to arrive, Sonia. I know says, wow, that's not cool. Yeah, tell me about it, man. It's like, you know, you give a stranded hitchhiker a ride and then they shoot you in the head, you know. It's crazy what people do. I'd agreed. So in my candy, you cannot trust anyone that uses your services. I believe that I can trust everybody, really. I've had so few incidents with people trying to scam me to get money back so they can pay their light bill or something stupid, you know, but it happens, you know, and so I have to take my own deal. You know, when you do that type of thing, you can expect a court date and you're going to have to address the district attorney. I'm not going to play games with it anymore. We're on a contractual agreement at this point. That's the best way to do business, and we're clear. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I've had fun talking with y'all. Hopefully, most of you got to see the earlier part of the video because that's the part where we actually talked about real content. The rest of this just me doing a song and dance, and we're discussing all these different little things that really matter. So I think probably rewind it back to the first 1 minute to 30 minutes, and I think you'll find what you're looking for. And I'll see y'all again in a couple of days, okay? Last thing I'm going to leave you with is a few links, and then I'll shut down here. For those of you that are tired, you're wore out, and you're ready to just hand it over and let somebody else do the casework for you, you can always utilize these links and contact me. You can also just call me. I don't often I talk to people. I don't charge them anything. I'll just call the phone. I'll talk to you. But if you try to hold me hostage on the phone for 40 minutes, that will go badly. All right. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you again in 2 days. Bye-bye.